Hello and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead. Today's podcast is an episode with Trinity member Rachel, who juggles being a partner in a law firm alongside raising two teenage daughters. For years, her family life and her career life took priority, and her weight steadily spiraled upwards, peaking at 104 kilos or 16 stone 5 pounds or 230 pounds for those who like to work in pounds. She tried almost every diet out there and could lose a couple of kilos, but she could never keep it up, and her weight continued to climb as she thought she just didn't have the willpower to ever be one of those fit and healthy people, and maybe she was just different. She hated mirrors, she hated photos, and she avoided these at all costs. And things really peaked for Rachel with an incident where she wasn't allowed to go horse riding with her daughters on holiday a couple of years ago, as she was told she was simply too heavy. And that's when she decided to do something about it and signed up to Trinity back in September 2021. Rachel lost 10 pounds in her first 4 weeks, over 1.5 stone in her first 12 weeks, and has gone on to lose 3 stone 10 pounds. But what's even more impressive is she now comes across as someone who's always been fit and healthy, when she never saw herself like that until now. She's now regularly playing tennis at a local tennis club. She's actually enjoying seeing her muscles in the mirror and feels like she's finally setting a good example to her teenage daughters. However, it wasn't all plain sailing, with her realising early on she had a serious problem with emotional eating due to the immense work stress she was under ever since she started her law career, as well as injuring her back in the first 4 weeks. In today's episode, Rachel shares how she overcame all of that, lost nearly 4 stone in her 50s around menopause, and while still working full-time as a lawyer with tons of work travel and events to go to. It's a cracking episode, so without further ado, let's get into today's podcast. Okay, so I'm here today with Trinity member Rachel, who's lost 3 stone 10 pounds over the last couple of years with Trinity. So I want to rewind a little bit, Rachel, and kind of give people a bit more context. For those who are listening, who would you say, if someone said, who are you, what is it you do? Like, what would you say to someone who asks you that?
Yeah, so I'm 52 years old. I'm a lawyer, and I'm a mum of 2 teenage girls, and I live in South Wales.
That's a pretty already, tricky combination, I imagine, at times. My wife Lucy is one of 3 girls, and I know her dad banned family holidays at one point because having 3 teenage girls at once, I think, was very stressful. So you've got a law career probably pretty stressful, and family life potentially pretty stressful. So before you were joining Trinity, were those things kind of a big part of maybe why health and fitness maybe slipped for you in the past?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I'd become a partner at the law firm I worked at, and that had been really hard work, and always worked all the way through. And since 2015, I've been working full time as well. So yeah, lots of juggling, and my fitness and my eating was not a priority.
And what had that led to then? Like, before you started with us, like what position were you in? What was your weight? What was your general well-being like?
Yeah, not good really. So I'd got to, I think I don't know what that is in stone, but I was 104 kilograms, which was clinically obese for me. And I just got to the point where I didn't know what to do about it. I just felt really uncomfortable, just felt like it was stopping me doing things. But I tried so many different diets, tried so many different things over the years, and I tried every diet there is, lost weight, put it all back on again so many times. And every time I got stressed at work, that would all go out the windows, all my diets and fitness regimes would go out the window. And I just got to the point where I thought I felt like I tried it all. And I got to the point where I was 50 years old, and I was thinking, well, is this it? Am I going to just be obese for the rest of my life and gradually get fatter and fatter, which is what I've done for the last 20, 30 years, until I can't walk anymore, I can't do the things I want to do. I kind of felt like I'd got to a turning point, or I was trapped in a way I was going that I couldn't get out of. I think that's how I felt when just at that point. Yeah.
And what then led you to find Trinity? So did you see an advert? Did you hear about it from a friend? Like what brought that into your life?
Yeah. So I'd gone on holiday. So because I joined Trinity in September 21, so I'd gone on holiday, and I think before the holiday I tried to lose a bit of weight, and not really. I think I'd done like a keto diet and lost a few kilos, and then put it all straight back on again. And whilst I was on holiday, we went on an activity holiday, and with the kids as well, and I joined in quite a lot of the activities, but one of the things that was on was horse riding. And I used to ride horses a lot as a kid, and I just thought, that'd be really nice. Me and the girls can go horse riding. And when I went to join, I was too heavy. I was too heavy to get on the horse. And I was just absolutely mortified that I couldn't do this thing that I wanted to do. And that really was the point where over that holiday, I was like, right, I've got to sort this out. And I felt like I was like thinking, well, is there something wrong with me? Do I need therapy to like, why am I just sabotaging myself all the time? What can I do about it? So I started doing a bit of research on holiday, and then just saw your advert on Facebook with you standing by that wardrobe of clothes saying, can you not get into any of your clothes? Do you feel like you've tried every diet? And everything you said was just like, tick, tick, tick. This is me. So, and I realised that I was going to have to invest some money and some time into it. Even at that point, I didn't know what costs would be, but I just thought, I've got to do something. I can't carry on the way I am. And so that was a point where I rang up and filled in your form or something, and then carried on from there. But I think I was at that point, got to the point where I just knew I had to do something quite drastic, really.
Yeah, having one of those really kind of almost hitting breaking point and tough situations can sometimes force people into action after years of maybe burying head in the sand a little bit, or just not knowing. I think a lot of the time people don't do anything because they don't feel like there's any hope. I don't know if you felt a little bit like you said, like you weren't really sure what the problem was.
Yeah, I mean, I felt I just didn't have enough willpower. I just felt like I just wasn't, I didn't have the willpower that everybody else had. And I was just, for some reason, I was self-sabotaging myself all the time. And I felt like stressful situations, I couldn't diet and do stressful situations. My job's stressful. So that was always a difficulty. And I would put all my effort into diets and then do them for like 2 months, 3 months, and then something would happen and I'd just completely fall off the wagon and put it all back on again. And the same with exercise. I'd have periods of time where I'd go to the gym, or I started the couch to 5K so many times, done 5 weeks of it, felt a bit better, then works happened and not carried it on. So I'd done that for so many years. And I'd also, I mean, so I'd had quite a lot of success doing Slimmers World, but I did it when I was on mat leave and I wasn't under that kind of work stress, and I lost 2.5 stone in between children, and then went back, had another baby, went back to work, and it just all went back on again since I started work. So I just felt like I tried everything and failed, and I did feel like I didn't know what to do next. Yeah.
And it's fascinating to hear it now from my perspective, because I've seen your journey, and I would say at this point you're one of the strongest members in the program physically, but also in terms of willpower. And for people listening and seeing, if they look in the video, they probably find it hard to believe that this much has changed. Obviously it's been a journey and taken some time, but when you then joined, were you skeptical that it would still work for you then, having tried all these other things?
Yeah, but I'd kind of got to the point where I had to give it a go. So I went in with the mindset of, this isn't a cheap option to do. So if I'm spending this money, I've got to wholeheartedly do it, because otherwise it's a waste of my money and my time and my effort. And I've just got to do everything, however skeptical I am about what you were asking me to do. I've just got to do it all. And I was skeptical about a lot of it. Whether the weight training would work, because I'd never done it before, whether I could do it. a lot of that, and for example, like the meditation, I was very skeptical about that. I was just like, I just got to do it and see. And yeah, I've tracked my food on my fitness pal for about 6 years, and you can see this just like up, down, and then the start of Trinity, I'm right up here, and it just goes down and down and down. So you can see that it's worked. But I've tracked my food for years, but it hasn't had the same result as it has with Trinity.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We speak to a lot of people who say, I've tried tracking, it doesn't work. I've tried maybe individual pieces on their own, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked. So why don't we jump into the kind of results you saw early on? Because I know you said, or just before we started recording, that you saw pretty quick or pretty significant results. So what kind of results did you see over the first few months?
Yeah, so I think I lost about 4 kilograms in the first week or so, like just the first couple of weeks. And then I think must have been getting on for 10 kilograms by the end of the first 12 weeks. Yeah, so it was pretty dramatic, and it was like so reassuring, and I think that really got me, that early success just really made me carry on and gave me a sort of encouragement to carry on, definitely.
Yeah, people really need to see that. They really need to, everyone, it's human nature. We need to see proof that the hard work we're putting in is actually achieving something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was I was so overweight for my height. I got to the heaviest I've ever been, so clearly I had a lot to go. So that first bit was quite dramatic, but it just very quickly made me feel so much better. I could fit into the clothes better. I just felt more fitter and happier. Yeah, I felt like a different person quite quickly.
And what do you think? So you obviously, again, you're very experienced in the program. You're an advanced member. You've done 2 years. Reflecting on that now, from everything you know, what would you say was the big difference for? Obviously, you said you made that big investment, so you went in wholeheartedly, which I think is a significant thing. But what else do you think made the difference between previously maybe only shifting a little bit and then gaining it again, and actually then seeing this consistent weight loss, so like 1.5 stone or more down in 12 weeks?
So I think it was a combination of all of the aspects. It's a real like holistic approach that, and also it's obviously very scientifically based, but and you can dip into that as much as you want, but actually there's some really fundamental things. If you just do what you're told, it'll work. But I think the key for me was the mindset things that we do. Because for short periods, I know what I should be eating, and I know I should be exercising, and I know I should be doing all these things. I know how to do them, but my mindset was such that I couldn't keep it up consistently. And that was a real key for me, is all those like the coaching as well. So that consistency and having someone to talk to every week, talk about how you're going, and wanting to do that for them as well as myself. I think that's really good early on. But yeah, it's given me a little toolkit of mindset exercises and things to do, because I realized, and I hadn't even realized until I think I went on a like Trinity retreat with you for probably January, so it must have been like after the first 12 weeks, and it took me till then, and having that weekend with other women and talking about it, for me to realize that I'm an emotional eater, and I eat to soothe my emotions, and I just hadn't realised that it wasn't willpower. It was this thing that I do to make me feel more comfortable when I feel uncomfortable. And I've got a stressful job, so I'm constantly in a stressful situation. Therefore, I'm constantly reaching for the biscuits. And that realisation is really the start of, for me, absolutely unlocking all the reasons why I've struggled with my weight since puberty. And I think without that, I wouldn't have carried on, and I probably would have lost that first bit of weight, but not being able to carry on. So I think that was really key for me. and things like meditation, which I say when it was first mentioned in the program, I was like, yeah, okay, that's a bit daft, but I'll do it. And I actually meditate every single morning. And if I don't feel right. In fact, I might meditate more than every day, more than once a day, because helps me to regulate my emotions, which in turn helps me not to eat the wrong things. And without that change of mindset and those tools to help me deal with what I know now is my reason for eating, I wouldn't be successful. I wouldn't be able to keep it up anyway, because that willpower only gets you so far.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the people we work with are in, they've used that will to get themselves into really successful positions, just like yourself, really doing well in the career. But it only gets you so far with food, as you've found, and you're constantly battling against the animal part of the brain. So there's, even since we made that beginning part of the program when you were a member 2 years ago, there's more science that's come out about emotional eating and meditation and the other tools we use, and how it actually changes your brain. So it's not just a woo-woo thing that makes you feel a bit more present. It does it by basically you allowing you to stay in your thinking part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, more, and quieting down the default mode network, the part of the brain which we go into when we're in that fight flight state. And if you're in a really stressful job where you're running on adrenaline, which as far as I understand it, law is very much like that. It's all about build hours. It's all about high pressure, high stake situations. Then you're going to be triggered to go into that part of the brain a lot. So the meditation, from a scientific point of view, as well as from all the other benefits, will enable you to stay in that point where you can make decisions. So how do you feel? Let's say you're in a stressful work situation now. How do you manage that? Obviously, you meditate to preemptively tackle it. Is there anything else you do?
Yeah, I think also that there's a real a sense, something that's quite central to Trinity is that actually that sort of ethos that actually you deserve to give yourself time to do this and to allow yourself to be healthy. And I think that was the other thing with my stressful job. Everything, my job was like absolute top priority for me over everything else, and that's how I got to where I am. But actually, that wasn't good for my health, and it was obviously showing in that. It wasn't good for my children, it wasn't good for my husband and for our family life, and it wasn't good for me. And I think I had to, that Trinity kind of maybe realised and I think I remember coaching that Rob did, Ben did rather, where he was saying, if you don't have anything for yourself, how can you give anything to anybody else, including your work? And it's all just going to fall down like a house of cards, which was what was happening for me. And I think I actually stepped back and said, right, okay, it's actually okay to give myself some time. So now I used to get up at 6 a.m, go straight to work, be at work by 7, leave work at 7, get home about 8 o'clock, really shattered, eat food late, and then go to bed. And that was just like my life, sitting down at a desk doing the work I had to do. And I stepped back and actually got up early and made time for myself. And I meditate in the morning, and I exercise in the morning before everything else happens, and make some time for myself and make some time for the kids. And allow myself to have some time other than work, go out with Jim, have a meal, that kind of thing, which seems so like fundamental when I look back at it. I was like, why wasn't I doing these things? But it took Trinity to say, hang on a minute, what are you doing here? We've got into this horrible habit. And I think all of those things combined make it better for me to deal with stress, easier to deal with stress, because if I've got up in the morning and meditated and done some exercise, a bit of dopamine hit, I feel better able to cope with my life, and actually more efficient at work. And actually, when I did those things and stopped getting in the early in the morning, my working world didn't fall down around me. Nothing bad happened. People got used to the idea that I wasn't constantly around and answering emails at 11 o'clock at night. I got more efficient and had to delegate more and be more efficient at work. But I had to make that decision to do that, and I had to change. I had to quite fundamentally change the way I behaved. So the whole, this started out as me being, I'm so overweight, I just want to lose weight. I'm fed up with being fat. But actually, it, it sounds a bit dramatic, but I did have to change my life to do that. And my whole outlook on life has changed. And that, I feel like that's a permanent thing. And so, which makes the whole weight loss thing so much easier, and not reacting to stressors. And I'm still working on that, like my propensity to emotionally eat. It's still an ongoing issue for me, but I'm so much more in control of it than I was. And I understand my own brain and how it works so much better than I used to. I used to just think there was something wrong with me, that I just didn't have the willpower that everybody else had. And I think the other thing that I found quite enlightening, and when I look back, I think, why did you think that? I kind of, listening to you and to the other coaches, that nobody is naturally thin eating, or very few people are just naturally thin and healthy and do nothing and eat loads. These people actually regulate your own food, and you regulate the exercise you do, and that's why you are fit and healthy. It's not something that miraculously happens to people. It's very rare for that to be the case. And I kind of used to think, well, I'm just not that kind of person. I'm just not a healthy, fit person. You are, I'm not. And I kind of labelled myself. So I've reevaluated that, definitely, and realised that I can put the effort and be a fit and healthy person.
And I think you do embody that. Like, every time I see you on the calls, it's like you just look like a fit and healthy person now. You're often like on there in your gym kit, you're like, you can see you're radiating energy, like, and it's just all those habits that add up. But it takes time. I think that's the other thing. People want that, to be that fit and healthy person after doing a 6-week program, and it doesn't happen overnight, does it?
And I think that is Trinity kind of slowly builds this up over time as well. So I'm looking back over 2 years of kind of learning about myself and losing the weight. And it started off very much about the weight. And that early loss was the best thing and really encouraging. And then you gradually start doing training about these mindset issues, and going on coaching calls, and building up your body strength and becoming fitter and actually getting better at the exercises. And that all happens quite organically and slowly over time, which I think is really good, because you don't it's not too overwhelming to start with, and you get that early success. And then as time's gone on, the weight loss has become less important to me, because I've lost a lot of weight, and the fitness and my strength has become more important. And I've always enjoyed the exercise, and that's interesting, because I've never done weight training before, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't know whether I'd enjoy it, and I really love it. And I've become someone who gets up in the morning and wants to exercise, and that was not me. I would not, I remember saying to people, I don't do any exercise unless someone's chasing me. I would not be running anywhere. And now I really like being strong, and I can see the tone in my muscles that I just didn't have before. And also having confidence in my own body. So the last 3 months, I've joined a local tennis club, which I've always wanted to do and never had the confidence to do. And now, join the tennis club, I can find that I can zip around on the tennis court without injuring myself, without aching afterwards, because I'm already fit. And I just enjoy, and that's just an extra thing that I enjoy, which I just wouldn't have had the confidence to do even 6 months ago, I reckon.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear that. And again, it's good to hear that there's stages to this, right? Is it not, I'm not confident, but if I just join the tennis club, that may not be the right move for someone who isn't feeling fit and confident, because they might just immediately get injured, not be able to keep up, feel embarrassed, and then never go back. I know when you were talking about the journey, like, you think by default we're fit and healthy as fitness people or coaches. I remember going into gym at 16 and hearing all the noise of the weightlifting, then that was downstairs, and all the cardio machines were upstairs. And I was a member of that gym for at least a year, and I've never been down there. I still don't know what it looks like. I don't know what's down there. It sounded intimidating, so I never went down there, and I never got any progress because I just sort of was on these cardio machines, not knowing what I was doing. So it's a journey for everyone. I think we want everything instantly, especially as adults. It's a little bit hard to accept like I'm starting from scratch at something because again, if you're flying in your career and you're very confident 'cause you've done it for so long, what a lot of people I see do is they just, maybe this is where you were at before, they just double down on the career because that's the thing they feel good in, they feel confident in, they feel like they're
Yeah,
succeeding in. So they just
definitely.
sort of say, that's not me, and I'll do that.
Yeah, I kind of just labelled myself as someone who doesn't do exercise. That's just not me. And I think that was part of the attraction for Trinity as well. That's that even though the weight was the big thing, but actually, when you go on the website, you see people's before and afters, and you see these women who have got muscles and are like in their 50s, 40s, 50s, and like you can see they're strong and they're toned. And I was like, and that was the so I need to lose weight, but I'd really like to look like that as well, and that was kind of a bonus. Um, so yeah, and I've still got a bit of weight to lose. Um, but I went I went and tried some clothes in Marks and Spencer's the other day. You know how they got the mirrors where you can see behind you and as well as in front of
Yeah.
you. So I tried on like a sports bra and I could see my back and I was like, bloody hell, I can see those muscles in my back. That's because you don't see behind you, do you? And I was like, oh, there you go. That's nice.
And it's really nice to appreciate your body. I think a lot of people are so hard on themselves about their body. We all have bits that maybe we're less happy about. Again, I'm the same, but if you can pick out those bits, and I think that's one big benefit of strength training. Not only does it work better for women around menopause and as you get older, and and combats a lot of aging, but there's another series of wins you can have. Whereas a lot of diets are just it's all about food and stepping on the scales, and if the scales are not going in the right direction, then you're failing, and you quickly can lose momentum. But at least if there's other wins as well, so you know how you're feeling mentally and appreciating the muscles and lifting more, I think it's a very different experience again.
Yeah, and I mean, like the first year and a half, I lost most of the weight I've lost, and over the last 6 months, I've not lost. I mean, it's still slowly going down, but I mean, it's going down very, very slowly, as I've only lost a kilo or so in the last 6 months. But my body shape is still changing, and I'm still like, yeah, I can see those changes, even though the weight isn't moving as fast as it was, and it actually has become less important as well at the same time, and it's more important that I'm moving up my kettlebell. I can lift heavier, and that I can I'm getting better at tennis. Those things become more important to me um, than actually just the
And I think
weight
that's
loss.
essential for
Definitely,
longevity.
and I want to get down in my clothes size, and I want there's bits like you say, there's bits of me that I'm still working on, but it's not the biggest issue.
And looking back over that journey, what were the biggest kind of? Everyone, I think, again, another assumption is like you see these success stories, um, and then go, oh, they must have just been like on it the whole time to get those results. And you do have to be on it more than you're off it. But what were the kind of main challenges you faced? Did you have illness? Did you have holidays? What were the kind of, or going back to
Yeah,
work after COVID? Like, what were the biggest things you had along the way?
so I was by no means perfect ever all the way through it. I definitely had days where I didn't track and days where I'd gone out for work and eaten loads of things I shouldn't, and I'd come back and I'd have to confess it to Laura, my coach, and she'd be like, get back on it. And sometimes it would take me I'm much better at getting back on it as well than I used to be. I used to have a couple of days where I'd be away for work and not have any control over my eating and just like blow it completely. No, come back, and then it would take me a week to get back on it. But I've got much better at that. And I think that's a real danger with any diet is that perfectionism, because you failed one day and then that's it, I've blown it all. And that's where the mindset work comes in again, because it's like that telling yourself, no, you haven't, and like not catastrophizing it all the time and making it part of your life. But yeah, the challenging bits for me are definitely work related. So I travel a lot for work. I go to conferences where I get, there's people with trays of unidentifiable canapes that I've got to navigate. I remember when during the first 2 weeks I started Trinity, there was a works do, and all there was burger and chips, and that was it. And obviously booze. And I just and I was actually, I actually didn't eat any of it. I was very pleased with myself, but that was a real struggle. And so, but there've been days where I've sod it. I've had a sod it moment, and I've just eaten something I shouldn't. But I think that's life, and it's about not doing that every day. And as long as I've managed to lose the weight I've lost, and had days like that, and had been on holiday and put on a kilo and a half, and then I had to lose it again. And Christmas, Christmas for me was always I'd put on at least half a stone and then not lose it, and then that would just carry on. And then I'd get to summer, I'd be like, I need to lose that half stone that I put on over Christmas. But now I limit it. So I like Christmas Day, I eat whatever I like, and then after that it goes, and I stop and I get back on it. And I do put weight over Christmas, but it's a few pounds, and then I lose it again. So it's okay to live a life. You're not no one's perfect all the time. You're not denying. I don't deny myself loads. In fact, I think my sweet tooth is lessened, so I don't feel like I deny myself. And when I look back, I think about my journey when I used to go to work go out for work. So I'd leave work early. I'd leave for work early, get on the train. I'd have a bacon butty and a coffee on the train, and then for breakfast, and then I'd have lunch with a client. So then I'd have starter, main, and pudding and drink, and then I'd have something out. I'd not want a meal on the way home, so I'd just have a chocolate bar, and I'd have eaten so many calories without even thinking about it. And it's just making little changes. So bringing something with me on the train, so I'm not eating the bacon butty and not having a pudding, having a coffee instead, and maybe not drinking. And it's quite regular. Quite often if I say I'm not drinking, the clients say, "Oh, actually, I don't really want anything lunchtime either." And then having something healthy on the way home instead of a chocolate bar, actually getting some sushi or something. And it's just little changes. So I'm never hungry. I'm never denying myself anything. But I've just made those little changes over time that make difference and mean that I'm gradually going the right directions. And I'll have blips where I put weight on and then I'll lose it again, because it's just occasional and not every time I go, which is often. So yeah.
Yeah, you're always traveling for work. I think it's so valuable for people to hear that we think we have to be perfect, and then if we're not, then we throw in the towel because we think we failed and we're not doing the right thing to get that result that we want. But actually, it's more about steering back on course more quickly, like you said, and making slightly better choices. And how do you feel in yourself now? You're making these more deliberate choices, not all the time, but more of the time. Like, were you just kind of burying your head in the sand before, or did you feel like really sluggish and kind of disappointed sometimes before when you're making these choices? And how do you feel now?
Yeah, I think I was all in my head. So everything to me was how, well I was doing at work, which is a very intellectual job. And that was it was all in my head. And my body just didn't really feel like part of me, almost. It was just this thing that didn't really do what I wanted to do. And I didn't look in the mirror because I didn't like what I saw. I never had photographs taken of me. There's very few photographs of me when I was really overweight because I just hated it and I was quite ashamed of it. And I just felt like I didn't have any control over my body. So I hurt my knee if I went for a walk just because I was carrying too much weight and I had no muscle. And that puts you off doing things as well. So yeah, I wasn't very happy with how I was. And now I just feel so much better. I feel like I've got energy. and I feel like I've got control over my body, especially with weight training, because you're training specific. It's quite, you know what muscles you're working on when you're lifting a weight, and I've never really realised what those muscles did, and that's really interesting. And actually feel like, yeah, I know I can move my arm in a certain way and it will do as it's told, because I've trained it to do that. And I like that. I like that feeling of control I've got over my body now. And as I say, when I'm playing tennis, I can zip around the court and I know it will do what I want it to do, which is brilliant. And so the mindset stuff has just mean that I feel much more calmer, positive, less negative self-talk. And that's something I think I'm still working on. But generally, it's had a very dramatic effect on my mood. I was never a depressed, unhappy person, but I just ignored that physical part of myself, I think, and just pushed it to the back of my mind until it became so bad that I had to it came suddenly to the front.
Yeah, I guess that horse riding incident when kind of made you confront it after years of kind of disconnecting. And it is interesting. A lot of people who struggle with emotional eating do talk about that disconnection almost when it's happening, and it's like you're watching yourself from outside, or you're not even noticing. Like, you're not really, I don't know if you found this, you're not even enjoying eating the food. It's just
No,
a relief or numbing.
it's not about enjoyment. Yeah, no, it's not. And it's all about, and then it's about guilt. It's a horrible cycle. And I don't wish it on anyone. And I know it's really common. And I think particularly in women as well, because I think especially my age, I think we were brought up to do things for other people, not think about ourselves. Be the caregiver in lots of cases. And even though I had this high powered job where I was quite like on it and confident, and my psyche behind all that was, I've got to do this for my job and I haven't got time for me or anything else. And my needs aren't really something that I should be thinking about. So that's been a real, mindset change. And I'm hopeful though, I've got 2 teenage girls, and I do think that the next generation have a different outlook, and actually well-being is much more central for them. But I think our generation, like 40s and over, women have a tendency to not think about themselves, and that comes across in like having to emotionally eating is coping with that.
Yeah, and being everyone to everyone, I think, is a huge thing. And also, what I've heard at events is people saying, this comes out a lot, like at school and PE, being told, you're no good, you're never going to be sporty, you can't do it. And there was a lot of that narrative as well. I don't know if you had that, like being made to feel ashamed or not good enough.
Yeah, I just didn't like. I mean, I liked a couple of sports. I enjoyed tennis and I liked hockey. But yeah, I agree. It was what PE was always something nobody wanted to do. It was always, everyone just tried to get out of it. It was just, and except those few, sporty few. I went to an all-girls school and it was very like, what can you do to get out of PE today? It wasn't something anybody enjoyed, or if they did, they were a bit weird. So yeah, that was definitely.
And I think that mindset carries on for a lot of women into later life as well. And feeling like you have to do exercise you don't like. And, obviously there are things that work better for people as you get older.
Yeah, and I think even
we have quite a strong opinion on that.
Even going on, so when my children were young, I was working and, had children as well. And there was always the gym mums at the gate. And they're always the ones that didn't work, and from my point of view, they just had all the time in the world. They just arrived in their gym kit. I mean, they probably had loads of things to do, and I was just judging them. But, it felt like they had a different life, and they had time and stress-free lives that they could waltz off to the gym and have a coffee with each other afterwards. And I had to go to work, and I didn't have time for that. And actually, I just didn't allow myself time for that.
And you don't necessarily, I think this is another big thing, you don't have to go to the gym to get those results nowadays, especially like most of our clients work out from home and they're busy, like you said. They don't have time to be commuting to and from the gym and having that coffee afterwards. So how do you fit this around this busy life as a mum of 2 teenagers and a lawyer working full time?
So I get up, first thing I do, gym kit on first thing in the morning, cup of coffee, straight in the lounge, do my workouts, and they're recorded so you can do them whenever you like, whatever fits. I know lots of people do them at different times in the day, but for me, it just works to get it out of the way, and it makes me feel so much better as well. I once I've done it, those endorphins are going, and I'm up and ready for the day. And now I just, it was funny actually. It's really sad, but when I went on holiday for 2 weeks, I remember sitting in the lounge, and there, like, we've got quite a big lounge, and part of it is where back at the back is where I do my exercise. And I remember looking at my kettlebells and saying to my daughter, "I'm going to miss my kettlebells," and she's like, "Mum, that's so sad." That is so sad. And so it got to that point.
That's an amazing trip.
Yeah, to get to that point where actually I feel quite fond of them is so it's so amazing. Aware, and I just wouldn't have been that person.
Yeah, you're that person. And I think that takes time. I've worked with a lot of people that, the body might actually already get to being that fit person, but the mind takes a bit more time to really shift. And again, it's good to speak to someone who's had longer to kind of do that.
Definitely. And I just had to, at the beginning, the first few weeks during the exercises, I couldn't move. I ached in it, muscles I didn't even know existed. And I remember on the community, because that's the other thing, like the WhatsApp community is brilliant. And I remember going on there saying to people, like, does this ever get any better? Because I just cannot, I'm crawling up the stairs. And everyone's brilliant because they're like, you'll get to enjoy the DOMs, it'll be fine, it'll get better. And it did, and I also managed to hurt my back very early on, just picking up a kettlebell in a stupid way. And my coach is brilliant. I didn't helping me to do the exercises I could do and just keep going and not give up during that time until that got better. But that was just my body just not having those muscles around my back to do the things I thought I could do. And so I fit it in. And everybody knows, my work colleagues know I'm not available till 9 o'clock because I got meditation and walking the dog and doing doing my kettlebells to do, and that's how I fit it in. I've kind of carved out that time, and that's for me, and it's not negotiable, which is so different to me 3 years ago.
And as you said, you probably, with delegation of things as well, but you can probably get as much done in a different way. Like, I know if I don't exercise in the morning, I do have rest days sometimes, but if I have too many in a row, I don't have those endorphins to go into the work day, and I come in with a completely different mood and with completely different lack of energy. Basically, I'm not a very good morning person if I haven't exercised, and
no,
I think I would be fairly hopeless without it.
Yeah, and I think the more time you give yourself to work, the more time you'll fill it, and it's just never ending. It doesn't I realise that it doesn't help work actually. It just means that you've got more people wanting your time, and they think you've got more time to do it. And the more you give time to people, the more they'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a slippery slope because we then find people are not tired because they've not done any exercise. So then they've worked really long, so the body isn't physically tired, so then they can't sleep. Obviously, there's sometimes menopause things going on as well, but it's exacerbating everything, and they're aching and all of this stuff. And then it's a slippery slope of them not sleeping, to them being tired, so they're not working well, so then having to work longer to get the same amount done. And you have to break the cycle at some point.
It's just a horrible vicious circle that I got into, and I think so many people do in my profession. And they either go they go one or two ways. They go down the alcohol route and have problems with alcohol, or they go down the food route and have problems with their weight. And it's really common. And people, lawyers dying early is really common.
Wow.
And it's just, I'm so glad that I've managed to find you guys so that my life isn't going in that direction.
Yeah, it's a scary prospect, isn't it? So I know you're busy. So last question, I just want to wrap it up on this. So take yourself back to you or anyone in your situation before you did anything about this. What would you say to that person who's kind of like a little bit skeptical, maybe, who's, thinks that they're just different and they can't do anything about this, like what would you say to that person?
Yeah, well, just do it and do everything that Trinity tells you to do. And if you just trust the process, it will work. It's so individual that whatever you think, whatever your issues are, there is a solution within Trinity for you, that will mean that you reach your goals. And I know that lots of other women in the community have completely different issues to me and have found Trinity to work. But for me, it was that emotional eating, and it's given me the mindset to help me. So just go for it and invest some time and some money into yourself, and it will pay off.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, isn't it? We often will spend a lot on things. I know I'm going to wrap it up in a minute, but I find it interesting. So it's a tendency, I think, as a human, go, oh, I want a bigger house again, or I want to redo the kitchen, or I want to have a new car, and we all spend tens of thousands on these things. And then when it comes to the body, it's like, can I get away with spending nothing, or maybe like $9.99 on an app and expect incredible results?
Yeah.
It's just a common mindset, and it is a little bit more expensive than that. Quite a lot more expensive than that, to be fair. But I think,
but it's so tailored, and it's successful, so it's worth it.
Amazing. So Rachel, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I've been wanting to, as you know, have you on for ages. And you wanted to wait till you're ready, but there's never the perfect time. And I think you've done incredibly well. And sharing your story today has been really inspiring. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I say the journey continues, and I think that's the other thing, is that I'm not done with Trinity. I hope that I will, I think I will always be badgering you guys, really.
No, you're welcome to be badgering us. Like, as I said, you're an inspiration to a lot of the members, and you have so many useful insights to add that I hope people have taken a lot from today, and other members will keep taking a lot from you.
You're welcome.